savor the good experiences, because there are going to be some experiences where you're going to be down and out, and look at things as a whole and take the good with the bad. Keep your ego in check.
Main Street businesses are struggling as they face challenges nothing like we've seen before. You're listening to the Behind Main Street podcast. Let's learn from real-world Main Street entrepreneurs, pick their brains, and learn their secrets to navigate, persevere, and overcome all the modern obstacles they face every day. Get ready to peek behind the stories, the struggles, and strategies of today's Main Street entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Behind Main Street podcast. Here's your host, Chris J. Cardona.
Great day, everyone. Welcome to the show. Whether it's your first time listening or an avid follower, thank you so much for joining us. Show notes can be found at www.behindmainstreet.com. But before we get started, I would like to thank the sponsor for this episode.
Today's episode is brought to you by Thinkin' Local, a fundraising and giving-based marketing platform whose mission is to connect local Main Street businesses who care about making an impact in the local community with schools and nonprofits who believe in supporting their local businesses. Find out more by visiting local.com.
Welcome. For today's episode, I'm super excited to get behind the story of Mike Velez, a local serial dadpreneur, a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, and the founder of Bldg Realty in Chino Hills, where he specializes in helping buyers and sellers simplify the process of navigating the real estate world. I'm excited to have this conversation and dig into his story. Mike, are you ready to take us behind the curtains and dig into your story?
Let's do it. The kimono is going to be wide open.
Wonderful.
Bring out the shovels. Let's dig for gold.
So, Mike, I've given our listeners just a little bit of a sneak peek of who you are. Why don't you tell them a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you do?
So for the past few years, I've been in the world of real estate sales, both commercial and residential. Here, in the Chino Valley, specifically Chino Hills, lived here for 23 years. Grew up down the street in Rolling Heights, and so I know the area really well. And I've owned quite a few different businesses over the years. I started the first business when I was 14 with my dad. The first actual business, but from what we've talked about, I think we'll get into some other stuff down the road. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but so I'm married, 2 kids. My kids are 22 and 18, which is weird that they're grown up. It seems like it was so quick. My wife and I have been married for 25 years. So that's me.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, maybe you can tell us and our listeners something interesting that your family and friends would say about you.
What they would say, well, I can sometimes be a jerk. So I don't think it's not
We
intentional.
can't
Sometimes I'll
all.
say things and be like, "Oh shoot, did that really come out of my mouth?" And so it might not come across the right way. Hopefully that I'm a good guy, and I like to make people happy. My family, my friends. I try to help out whenever I can. Um, and just live a productive life.
Absolutely. Well, how would you describe your mission in life?
Mission. That's a tough one. I don't have like some code that I live by other than to, treat people like you'd want to be treated, leave things better off than how you found them, not be a jerk, even though I kind of said that, um, and just, be productive, bring something positive to people's lives. I typically have a pretty positive attitude on just about anything. And it sometimes, people think, maybe I don't care about something, but I'm just trying to be positive. And, my son right now, he broke his foot about a little over a month ago in wrestling. And he's like doom and gloom where he's going to need surgery and this and that. I'm like, dude, you just got to relax. We have an appointment with the MRI tomorrow to see what happened. And, he's thinking the worst and I'm thinking the best. I'm thinking, oh, they're going to rip the cast off. You're going to be walking around. So we'll see who's right. Hopefully positivity will win and he won't need any surgery. But that's just how I kind of go through the day. Like, I don't worry about things that I can't control. So,
G- Gotcha, gotcha. Well, other than sometimes being thought of as a jerk, what do
let's not
people?
dwell on that too. Maybe I overstated that. I don't want that to be the theme or the headline on this podcast.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, then let's go back to that. What would people misunderstand about you the most?
Sometimes, so I get emotional just like everybody, but through life, I've found the ability to kind of detach from situations really well, more so than the average person. And sometimes it comes off as like uncaring or like not. Why aren't you bothered about something? But again, I only worry about things, or I only put a lot of emotional investment aside from, if a friend, somebody passes away or their family member, they're going through tragedy, I want to be there for them. But as far as like things that might otherwise upset me, you just move on. Like you figure out what the situation is, and detach, and that's been a good coping mechanism, I guess, for me for the time that I've come across adversity. Knock on wood, I haven't had I haven't had any horrible stories, happen to me in life like some people have, and I'm grateful for that. But I think that's kind of where I jumped into that is because I detach pretty well from some things, and sometimes it could be taken the wrong way.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us have that problem. My wife always tells me, that you need to be more sensitive about things, and things of that nature. Maybe it's just the logic always thinking, being an entrepreneur, you're always trying to problem solve. You're always trying to find, that silver lining, like the solution to whatever situation I'm in, the rut that I'm in. You're always trying to do that. Sometimes it does come across as being somebody that's, desensitized to certain things, but it's not that it's like that. It's just because we're always in that mode of like trying to problem solve, trying to come up with the most optimistic way to come out of a problem or situation and things of that nature. So I can definitely, I mean, you're not the first one that I've heard, y- you know, get kind of siloed into that, I guess, stereotype. But it definitely is a stereotype, just a stereotype.
For the most part, I'd say it served me well, but there are definitely times when it is a detriment.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, if there was one thing that you say that you value most in life, what would you say that would be?
The day and opportunity. I mean, nothing is guaranteed. I wake up each day, and part of my morning routine is I write down three gratitudes, and I have like kind of a mantra for myself. It's short. It's just a sentence, and it changes depending on what I feel like I need to work on in life. Lots of times it's my family, my health, my friends, the the opportunities. I'm not. I mean, I have beliefs, but I'm not like, super religious or anything like that. But I'm extremely grateful. And, it becomes a cliche, but, I've been very blessed, to have the opportunities that I've had in life. And, some of them I've completely blown and others I've capitalized on. So, I'm grateful for all of that.
Gotcha. Well, a lot of us think about the legacy that we're going to leave, years and years and years from now. But have you had any thoughts about the impact that you and your business will have in the next 5 years or so?
So in real estate, there's different circumstances where like, somebody's looking for an investment property or something like that. It's there's very little emotion involved. It's dollars and cents what the cap rate is on the property as far as what it can rent for and things like that. And then other times it's their first home. I've helped lots of people get into their first home, and I kind of like transport back to when I bought my first house. My wife and I bought our first home back in 1998, and those memories will come back to me, and I'm like super joyous for the people or the couple or whoever it is that I'm helping. And then there's times where I've been able to help quite a few grandparents get closer to their grandkids, selling their house that the kids have outgrown. And we find them a place that, just here in Chino Hills, a great family that I met and become friends with. The mom, her husband passed away, and she was living in Burbank, and the kids and the grandkids are out here in Chino Hills. And we found her an amazing house, like within walking distance. Her goal was to have her grandsons be able to ride their bikes to grandma's house. And we made it happen. And that was really awesome. So, it put food on my table, but at the same time, I was able to really help, two families, the grandmother and her daughter and her son-in-law and her grandkids. And, it's awesome to be able to help people like that. So, 5 years from now, I hope to multiply that out. And, I hope to grow the business here in Chino Hills. I love it here. I've been here 23 years. And, it's funny, you'll see the same people. We've got 76,000 residents, but I'll see the same people all the time at this. We have the same routine. So it's like, I don't know their names, but, it's like, oh, how you been? And, it's just, we know each other. So that's a cool vibe that we have going on here.
Yeah, for sure. I think living in Chino Hills, we still have that vibe. Like it's still a small town. I mean, it's grown. I mean, I went here, I went to elementary here way, way, way back in the early '90s, and it's definitely changed. It's grown a lot. That's before the shops were here, before Spectrum and all that stuff over at Chino side over the 71 freeway. Now that I think about it, I don't even think the 71 freeway was complete when I was young. I forgot. It was such a long time ago. But yeah, we live in such a unique community that you still feel like it's still small relatively, right? Even though it's like I said, it's grown so much more than it was before.
Yeah, no, I feel super comfortable when I sell a house here because I know they're going to love it. So,
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's say tomorrow morning you open up your bank account and it has $100 million in there. What would you
wow.
spend it on?
I have a few causes that are really near and dear to my heart.
Mhm.
And I would probably try to, help that out as much as I can. Back in 1996, my niece, who was 6 at the time, she passed away from a brain tumor. And she battled it for about 3 years, or not 3 years, maybe 2 years. And it really touched me. I mean, you know, thinking about it, I get emotional. It's been a while, and those feelings just come right back. And to see what my sister went through, and her husband, and my whole family, like childhood cancer research is like high on my list. So if I could help, a single family not have to go through that pain, that's probably where I would put that. And then I'd probably invest in real estate. So. Uh, a house in Kauai, Hanalei Bay specifically. That's kind of like my dream. And try to help people out. Maybe start some fund where the money would be available. I mean, nobody. Yeah, obviously people can spend that kind of money, but that's enough for one person's many lifetimes. And this might sound like, oh, he's just saying that, but I think people that know me would agree that I like to help people, and obviously I would take care of, you know, I drive a Camry hybrid. I'd probably ditch that and get something a little nicer. But no, I'd like to help people and make it grow and make it last, for people down the road, future generations.
Gotcha, gotcha. I'm sorry to hear about your niece. I mean, that's definitely tough.
Oh,
See,
thanks.
having to go through something like that is something you can't imagine anybody would have to go through, but it does happen, unfortunately, and that's so sad. And I can't
Yeah.
understand how
Yeah.
cancer can be dealt with when you're like how can someone so small, so innocent, go through something like that? It's just sometimes you just can't fathom it.
Yeah, it was really rough. I mean, that's kind of one of those things where uh, I would have traded places in a heartbeat, without a doubt. And that's kind of where my appreciation comes from. Like I think of all the things that I got to do in life so far. I'm 47, and she only got 6 years. So I think of all the things she didn't get to do, and it makes me appreciate each day.
Wow, wow. Well, going back to, you said you grew up in Rolling Heights. How was that childhood like growing up?
It was pretty good. Middle class family. My dad, he drove a cookie truck for Mother's Cookies, and in the summers I would go to work with him, and we'd go into grocery stores, and he'd sell cookies to them, and we'd put them up, and at the end of the day, we'd grab a hot dog for lunch, and at the end of the week, I'd get some cash. That was great. And my mom did a few different things. She worked in banks, and she was also in real estate when I was a kid. And yeah, we grew up in, technically it was Walnut. It was like unincorporated LA County, but I went to Roland High School, not too far from here. And it was like when my kids watch Stranger Things and they see the kids riding their bikes all over town. That's how it was, man. We used to ride my bike down to Whiskey Barrel, was the liquor store that we'd hang out at, play video games. And so it was a great place to grow up.
Fascinating. Did you have a dream job as a child or dream career as a child?
So again, dating myself, Chips was really popular at one time, and I wanted to be a motorcycle officer. And then Emergency was a great show, and I wanted to be a paramedic. And but throughout that entire time, I always dreamed of buying and selling businesses. And that might seem kind of strange. But yeah, like I remember I used to we had this piano bench, and I would set up this piano bench as kind of my desk. And whatever money I had, which was like, I'd visit grandma and she'd give me a few bucks. I'd be like, I'd have my dollars out on the desk, and, I was like going to buy and sell a business. And that was kind of always in the background of my mind of what I wanted to do. And in that time, I've done quite a few things. Um, I know the questions. I know some of the questions you're going to ask, so I don't want to get too far ahead. But yeah, that was always my dream. I wanted to be a lawyer at one time. We went to Las Vegas one time, and Steve Wynn was bussing tables at the Golden Nugget, and that left an impression. That was pretty cool, and I was like, oh man, I want to own a casino. And so I think I made like not a roulette wheel. I made like a Keno board, and I was trying to sell Keno tickets to my parents to get them to get some of their money. So
That's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I'm an
W-
open book, so
great,
I don't
great.
get
Well,
myself in trouble.
you were in Roland Heights, biking around, basically, enjoying your childhood that way, which is a lot different nowadays. Where all our kids, I have four, are all stuck at home. My oldest is 14, is stuck at home playing video games, not like before where we can actually play outside.
I couldn't imagine having my kids like at that age, 12 or 10 or however old we were, like riding around on their BMX bikes. I don't know, just be back before the lights come on,
Yeah,
the street lights come on. Those were the rules. Those were the times. So
yeah, and
times
we didn't have
changed.
cell phones back then, like right, like
Oh no.
your mom just knew that when she went outside, she called your name for some reason. You're there, like you just got back to from wherever the heck you jettisoned to. You're just there. You called your name. You'll go. You're there. You go,
Yeah.
Mike. Like, yes, mom, I'm here. That's so weird, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's we just have that alarm. I guess like I don't know, like maybe like some wavelength ET type of thing.
Yeah. Could you imagine your kids drinking out of the hose? Like we do
I
that all
did
the
that.
time now. Now everything's bottled water. It's got to be filtered. Oh my gosh.
I remember when
So,
when the hose was it was under the sun. You're drinking like
oh,
hot
and under
water.
the sun, yeah, you burn yourself. All your friends are sharing the same hose. Like
Oh my god.
just different times.
I know. Well, while you were in that time, were you a kid that liked school? Did you have any favorite or least favorite subjects?
I looking back, I wish I would have spent taken school more serious. I graduated with like a B average, throughout school. I was good at taking tests, so I could slack off on homework, and I would do well on the tests, and I'd manage to get a decent grade. But looking back, I wish that I would have um, taken it more seriously. I went to Mount Sac for like a year and a half or so. And then I dropped out because I had a business that I had started and it was taking up more of my time. And looking back, I wish I would have gone through the college experience. A bunch of my friends went, all over the country to different schools. And I wasn't jealous, but looking back, I wish I would have had that experience. But at the same time, life takes you where it takes you. And, that might not have led to me to a place where I feel as fulfilled as I am now. So,
Absolutely. Well, was there something in your childhood that when you look back on, you felt sort of led you to Mike of today?
I think it's all one big mosaic. You can't I can't put a single. I haven't had like some, aside from what I mentioned about my niece. I've never had like a traumatic experience. I've had experiences, but I've never had like kind of a turning point of anything. Um, it's life experiences. You learn, if you learn. Sometimes you don't, and sometimes I've had experiences where I learned nothing because I made the same mistake or I did the same thing again and again. Um, but if you can uh, take something out of both positive and negative experiences and learn from them, hopefully it gets you to a better point where um, you're more well-rounded, or you're able to make a better decision next time.
Gotcha. Well, you mentioned that you were in Mount Sac and you left that and you pursued, kind of dug deeper into your own business. Talk to us a little bit more about that business and how you kind of got that started.
So my first well, when I was a kid, and I listened to a lot of podcasts and a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts, and there's not always, but sometimes there's that guest that talks about, a lemonade stand and stuff like that. So I was that kid. We would go down to go have lobster down in Mexico, and we'd drive back and I would buy a box of chiclets from the kids that were selling them at the border. And I didn't eat them. I sold them the next day at school for a quarter or however much it was. I washed cars in the neighborhood. My friend Marcus, his dad, was always good for $20 to wax his van. He had this work van. I'd wax it. And this was back in like early 80s. So, $20 was $20. And then my dad and I got into radio control cars in 1985, and he was doing his full time job with the cookies, and we started a business where we would basically just resell products. We would buy in bulk and resell and market them. And at 14, I was on the phone with different hobby shops around Southern California, taking orders from them. And we had a room in the garage, and I would be packaging up gears and electric motors. And when my dad got home from work, we'd go to the UPS store, or it wasn't the UPS store, but some shipping place, and we'd ship them out. And then we actually started a retail hobby shop in Rolling Heights, on Colima, next to the Stater Brothers. And it was my senior year in high school, or maybe junior, I don't remember. But I was in retail. My first real job was at Nordstrom as a gift wrapper, and I can't wrap a gift to save my life. So luckily they were boxes and we'd fold them. But I look back at that, I think, man, there were some people that Christmas that got gifts from Nordstrom, and they're like, who the heck wrapped this? It was horrible. But anyway, so that was my first experience helping, in retail, or helping people out. And then with the hobby shop, it was great. I loved it. When I turned 18, I got my real estate license, like 5 or 6 months after I turned 18. And I did mortgages for a local business, mortgage origination. And I was always shocked because I was this 18-year-old kid, and I would have people refinancing a $500,000 loan. And I'm like, man, it was, I was surprised they put their trust in me. I was grateful they did, but looking back, I mean, that was a lot to ask, I think. But anyway, it worked out well. I really enjoyed it. Um, that was going to be my career path. I thought, I'm going to get into finance. I adjusted my class schedule with the idea of transferring out and, majoring in business and finance. And then I got the bug to start a magazine, and I started a magazine focused on radio control cars in 95 or 96. My years might be off, so don't fact check me. But and it was pretty cool. I liked it a lot. I was shocked at how horrible my grammar was. That after putting something out there that other people were going to read, and I was like, I couldn't believe I graduated English class. It was horrible looking back. And that kind of started my magazine career, and I really enjoyed it. And I was in the magazine business for 23 years.
Wow, that's super fascinating. I mean, you go from RC getting your license, and then you're doing license in real estate and doing mortgage, and now you're a publisher of a magazine.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that's been the bulk of my career. I have 23 years in publishing. I had 4 different magazines, uh, all of them nationally distributed on newsstands and Walmart, 7-Eleven, Target, Barnes and Noble, every retailer you can think of. And one of them was a radio control car magazine, and then we did a radio control helicopter magazine, and then a beer magazine, and a Jiu Jitsu magazine. So, and those were all really fun businesses, especially before the whole market crashed in 2008. Prior to that, companies, the spaces we were in, the internet wasn't what it is today. So magazines were a big outlet for companies to get their message across. And it was a really good business. And then after that, the advertising slowed down quite a bit. And then just over time, it was just a slow decline for print publishing. I can't remember the last time I bought a magazine, and I'm sure most people can't either. There's a whole generation of people that have never bought a magazine. So, and that was just I kind of started diversifying in 2018, and I got back into real estate in 2019. And I'm so glad I did, just because I love it. I love helping people, and I get to play out that dream of building a business and maybe selling it someday. So,
Wow, that's fascinating. Were all those magazines for separate businesses, or they were all just under one publishing house?
2 separate companies. So the first one was the radio control and the beer, and then the second one was the jiu-jitsu space.
Gotcha. And whatever happened to your you and your dad's like hobby store?
So after I outgrew the first magazine, I used to run out of like the storage room at the hobby shop, and I broke out. My first office was in Covina, and then shortly after that, we outgrew that one, and I opened up an office on Telephone Road here in Chino, and started hiring people. And we pretty much, after that point, we were in Chino. We were in 3 different addresses in Chino, one in Ontario, and then back to Chino. And I think we had 16 employees at the largest point, and it was a $3 million a year business. So it really grew. It was I made mistakes when the recession hit. I didn't want to lay anybody off, just because that line between friends and business or family, like I felt like all my employees were part of the family, and I did everything I could to stave off having to lay anyone off. And in hindsight, that was a big mistake. I put myself in a tremendous amount of debt, and eventually had to let him go anyway. So that was a lesson learned the hard way.
Yeah, it's always tough to let people go. I remember during the same time I had an agency, and after the that crash of the market back then, I had to lay off. I think I had 16 web designers, developers, and well, they're a mix of web design and web developers, programmers, and stuff like that. And I remember having a scheduled like powwow, like a dinner, knowing all full well that I'm about to have a meeting to lay all of these people off. Their families are
Mm,
there, their kids are there. um our office, there was a restaurant in the like lower floor in our office. I think was a third, fourth floor. So afterwards, I said, like, we were, of course, you know this deep inside you, and you don't know how to actually accomplish this laying off part, and you go upstairs like, hey, I need to talk to you guys, and then leave the family and the kids and stuff like that downstairs having fun, eating, drinking, whatever. You go up and talk to your coworkers and employees at that time and saying, hey guys, like, I'm only keeping three of you guys. I have to let everybody else go. And that was like, that's never fun. That's really, really
No,
tough to have to go through something like that.
yeah, absolutely. I feel for you. I was right there, same situation.
Yeah, but you got to do what you got to do, or else all of you are going down.
Yeah. Any advice to future or anybody watching this or listening? If we ever find ourselves in a similar situation, uh, the best thing to do for all parties involved is to, trim the fat. I mean, they're people's lives and, their livelihoods, but cut the costs. It's going to be the best thing for them. Let them, rather than coming up with ways to cut pay and to reduce hours and just drag it out, just rip the Band-Aid off. And it's the best thing for everybody. Might not feel
Absolutely.
like it at the time, but it absolutely is.
Excellent, excellent. Well, now that we've gotten to know your story a little bit more, are you ready to go deeper?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's take this conversation behind the alleys and go deeper.
So, Mike, what does being part of the local Main Street entrepreneur world mean to you?
We're kind of the ones that do a lot of the work. You think of all the big companies, Apple, Tesla, and all the big companies. But how often do you, aside from when you turn on your phone or you get in your car, you're not interacting with those people. Every day you're going to the grocery store, you're going to local stores, you go to the butcher, or places you like to go, and or if you go to a gym, especially in Chino Hills, there's a lot of small businesses here. So you're constantly coming in contact with people that they are living out a dream. It's a business. And something that's like I get easily distracted, but the E-Myth, if you've ever read the E-Myth,
Yep, Michael
uh,
Gerber,
it's some-
love that.
it's it's a technician that's having an entrepreneurial seizure, I think is what he called it. So when you go to one of the local businesses, it, they're probably not a Harvard MBA. They're probably just somebody that loves what they're doing, and they decided they wanted to hang a shingle, on the front of the store and help other people out. So that's kind of what I think of when I hear mainstream business. When you add us all together, we're probably the majority of what gets done every day. Um, but there's just a ton of little, the little guy. We're standing on each other's shoulders, I guess. I like cliches too. That's another thing. I get easily distracted, and I like cliches. So.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Well, I know you mentioned that you were the lemonade stand kid. What age would you say, if you think back on that entrepreneur bug, when did that hit you? Was it like super super early, or like maybe middle school?
So the first one, and I've told this story a couple of times. It was the fifth grade in Mr. Shurick's class.
Wow, super
So
specific. Tell us more.
yeah, no, uh, I came up with the idea of I think my grandma gave me a cigar box, and I thought, well, this is
Fifth
pretty
grade.
cool. So
Okay.
fifth grade, yeah. My grandma gave me a cigar box, and it didn't have cigars in it.
Oh,
Although her and I did smoke a cigarette together once when I was about that age. But anyway, I offered to tape it on to onto their desk, and if they had any trash, they just throw the trash in the box. And if I saw it while I was in class, I would go and pick up the trash and throw it away for them, and they'd pay me a fee, for the week or the month or the day, or however long it was. So that was my first, quote unquote business. Fifth grade, Mr. Shirk, and he let me do it, and he was cool with it, and that was it. That was at Ibarra Elementary School.
wow, that is so fascinating. Like you're like your own little waste management business.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just had a big contract negotiation here at the city with the waste management company. I could have stepped in.
I know you probably would have been the that fourth player, right? I think there was like four or three or four contract companies that were trying to fight for that contract. You could have been the fifth or fourth.
Yeah, no, that's a dirty business. I don't want to get.
Yeah, absolutely was. Um, was there? I know your dad was. You worked with your dad a lot. Starting a business together. Was he your entrepreneur influence in your life?
Not really. Sorry, Dad, but he was an entrepreneur in that he worked for a company, but he was in route sales. So
Oh, I see.
you know how much his paycheck was going to be was dependent on how well he could persuade the people at the grocery stores to order more cookies. And so it definitely was an influence. I had an uncle or a family friend. We called him uncle just because he had been around for super close. And he had a company called UDI. I can't remember what it stood for, but it was basically he owned a bunch of rental houses. And then he sold the company, sold all the houses, and he started buying car dealerships. And I remember we hung out with them at family functions and events and stuff, and we'd go on vacation together. And I always would see or hear about the things he was doing, and that was something that really kind of left an impact on me. I thought that was pretty cool of just taking different raw materials in that figuring out a way to make things work and make a business out of it, and then making the decision, well, I'm going to sell all this and I'm going to start something new. So that left a big impression on me. That I've had a magazine company, I had a retail store, I had a subscription box business. I've had I wouldn't call it a chemical company, but I in jujitsu we get really sweaty, and our gis, the uniforms that we wear, if you don't wash them correctly, they stink. And I got together with a chemist, and we came up with a detergent that would solve the problem of you. I'm gonna jump in the weeds here. When you wash your gi or any athletic equipment, and you use Tide or anything that has fragrance in it, or it has a fabric softener or anything like that, it's like if you're a car guy, when you put wax on a car, well, wax builds up, it traps dirt and it keeps dirt stuck to it. So standard detergent is like wax on a car and in your clothes. So anyway, basically the bacteria that your body produces, it stays in your garments even when you use those detergents, because if it's going to smell good like flowers, it means that something was left behind. So anyway, it keeps that bacteria in there. The bacteria dies off, but then when you go to work out again and all of a sudden your stuff stinks immediately, that's because that bacteria is got new food, or the new bacteria has got food to feed on, and that's why it starts stinking. So anyway, started this detergent. This was a few years ago, and got it on Amazon, and it did really well for a while. And I just got distracted and decided I didn't want to do it anymore. But I have a partner in another previous business that he might kind of take the ball. I really like real estate. I want to focus 100%, and that's all I do. But he may take that ball and run with it and revive that brand. So I can't remember what your original question was, but
No, that's good. We're talking
that's
about
the answer.
entrepreneur influence and all that, but yeah, absolutely being able to dive into a lot of your entrepreneurial experience, the companies that you've had, like, well, first of all, that was fascinating to give me a little bit of a background on how that works with sports equipment and stuff like that. I've always, yeah, that was a fascinating thing. So you keep buying more of these like things that like deodorizer, like Febreze with Febreze with like whatever. Yeah, I didn't realize. Like, yeah, you're right.
It
Like,
just makes it worse.
yeah, exactly. Because it smells good, right? After you throw it in the dryer, it comes out. You smell it. It smells good. But you use it, it's like a basketball short or whatever. It's like, dang, like no, like what happened? Did it not dry under the sun or something like that? So yeah, that's fascinating for you to like
A
get in the weeds of
30
that.
a 30-second lesson. So when you throw a fabric softener in the dryer and you feel your clothes and they're nice and soft, you're like, oh my gosh, it's like magic. Well, no, it's not. it's like a film of wax that is on your clothes that feels good, but it just keeps all the dirt and all the germs and everything and bacteria, and it just builds over time. And so that when you go to work out again and all of a sudden your stuff stinks, it's because of that. So don't use fabric softener if you actually, there's other reasons not to use fabric softener, but anyway,
Wow, that's very, very
don't do it.
fascinating. I think a lot of our listeners are going to get a lot from this episode just from the lessons that you're sharing. Like, just my wife, I'm going to tell my wife this. Hey, listen to that episode by Mike.
We can offline. We'll talk more about the
Yeah,
treatment.
absolutely. Well, you were in college, right? You decided you're going to go into business full time. How was that journey like? Like, you've decided, okay, you know what? I'm leaving what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna do this full time. I'm sure you had several conversations with your parents about it and all that stuff. Unpack that for us a little bit.
I think aside from Nordstrom for like 6 or 8 months, I moved around different departments. And aside from that, I've never had like a traditional boss employer. So I think I'd be a good employee, but I think I'd be bored. I like the uncertainty of the day. In real estate, some days I'm writing contracts, some days I'm negotiating, some days I'm driving all over, showing properties. Um, and I like not uncertainty, but I like that change. That way I'm not getting bored. Um, so, it's been a good decision. So I don't think that I could be a 9 to 5 person. I think it's just wouldn't be for me. So, and my parents were always very supportive. Um, my dad was more of, take risks, you're young, find out now. My mom was more of like, well, maybe you should do this and this is more secure. They kind of balanced each other out. But I definitely am a risk taker. I don't mind the uncertainty. Um, it just it's kind of I don't want to say it's a thrill, but I when I was a kid, actually working at the hobby shop, somebody turned me on to Tony Robbins tapes, like early on, like maybe I was 16. So, in high school, I was listening to Tony Robbins, and I remember one of the tapes. A girlfriend broke up with me in high school, and at the time, Tony Robbins was talking about how, well, it's an opportunity for you to find somebody that really appreciates everything that you have to offer, and I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. So rather than crying about it, I kind of took on that attitude, and maybe that's where the detachment started. But so as a kid, I was listening to things like Tony Robbins, and uh, shoot, there I go again. I forgot what the original
No,
question
no,
was.
it's perfect. You was just talking about your journey
Oh,
and unpacking that a little bit more. So yeah, that's exactly, you're in line with that question.
so the point of Tony Robbins was the fact that how much uncertainty you can live with in life will is a good gauge on what your expectations should be, and your fulfillment. I'm completely butchering the quote, but it's something like that. As far as like the more uncertainty you can handle, the more rewarding you'll find things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating that I forgot where I read it or I heard it. Him saying that he was a kid from Azusa, so he's
Uh-huh.
down from over here, and he was talking about when he was a kid that he would, like, he was overweight, and he would run, right. I'm imagining him running through that dam by Irwindale. That's what I'm imagining, or like up in the canyons of Azusa Canyons. I imagine him running there like a giant kid. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
this
a pretty
giant guy.
tall.
Yeah,
He's fascinating, like how big he actually is, like in
yeah.
person.
Well, you saw Shallow Hal, right?
Yeah, it's
When he gets in the elevator with Jack Black.
I know. He's like he almost looks like like, what is that, the wrestler Andre the Giant,
Andre the Giant, yeah,
right?
he's like
Yeah,
a
he's like
thinner Andre.
yeah, exactly. Big boned. Well, when you were going through all of that, like you made the decision to be an entrepreneur. You basically did a lot of different things. Your first entrepreneur, like official entrepreneur experience, what were some of the challenges that you faced when you were just starting out? I know you have a lot of grit and experience in actually just grinding through entrepreneurship, but when you've officially started hiring people, maybe it was in your magazine days and stuff like that, what were some of the challenges that you faced that you can kind of share with some of our would-be entrepreneurs?
You don't know what you don't know. So sometimes you just have to, I mean, do some research, but at some point you just have to do it. And some lessons you will learn the hard way. The first issue that I got printed, I used a print broker, and I paid twice as much for the first printing as I did the second printing, because I thought, well, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be somebody's making something. I got to go to the main, the source. So the first issue was printed by a print broker who I doubt he printed it himself. He jobbed it out to somebody else. The second issue of my magazine was printed by a Vietnamese newspaper company in Westminster. And this was when the internet just had started. And somehow I found Westminster Press, and I asked them to quote me the print run. It was 10,000 copies at the time, and they charged me half of the first time. And I thought, oh man, this is awesome. I was upset that I overpaid on the previous one, but I found a better solution. And then shipping them out, finding different ways, different classifications of mail. I'm transporting back in time to the things I remember from then. It was finding new ways of doing, getting the same result a different way that was more optimized or was better. That was always a big thrill. It was upsetting that I had been doing it wrong for a certain time, but I found a better solution. And in the world of management, I think it's called Kaizen, where you're constantly improving, and those are the challenges. Like, yeah, sometimes you're gonna just have to pay that tax of overpaying for something or doing something that takes you way longer than it should have. Whatever the challenge is, whatever the challenge is, you're just gonna have to, deal with it, face it, and hopefully improve the next time that you come across that same situation.
Absolutely, it's more like reverse dollar cost averaging, basically. Your dollar cost averaging into your experience, into your business, and
Yeah,
eventually it'll
that's a
pay
good way
off.
to frame it. Maybe so you feel a little bit better about the mistakes.
Exactly. Well, in business and life, you've had a multitude of different experiences from the 80s all the way today. What would you consider at this point non-negotiable for you?
In real estate, there's uh, there's people that will sometimes make a decision that's best for them and not necessarily for the client. Actually, this is not to not to disparage people in real estate, but in general, there's times when look long term, do what's right and not what's best for that exact moment or for you. If you represent somebody, uh, always act in their best interest, and even when it hurts. I had a transaction not too long ago where I made a big mistake, and it wasn't. It was I forgot something, and it put everybody in a bad situation, and I was dead set to solve it and take care of it, no matter what it cost. Luckily, it didn't cost as much as I kind of thought it would, but we got past it. Everybody was happy. In fact, I ran into her and her daughter at Sam's Club earlier today, and we're hugging and exchanging stories, and at that moment in time, it was it kept me up at night. It was a big mistake. I definitely will never make that mistake again. But at no point in time did I ever think that I was going to do anything other than suck it up and take care of it and make sure that it didn't affect them in any negative way at all. And that's what I did. So that is a non-negotiable. So in anything, I don't want other people to pay for my mistakes. That's for sure.
For sure, for sure. Well, what did you wish that you knew prior to becoming an entrepreneur?
That it's not savor the savor the good experiences, because there are going to be some experiences where you're going to be down and out, and look at things as a whole and take the good with the bad. Keep your ego in check. The first With the magazine business, there was a time when we had great success. We were doing super well, and I was buying expensive cars and spending a lot of money. And then 2008 hit, and reality slapped me in the face. So, take things, uh, recognize your wins, but also don't get carried away that things can change, and be prepared. Expect the best, but prepare for something less than the best. That's for sure.
Gotcha.
So.
Well, what would you say throughout this entire entrepreneurial journey? Multiple companies, multiple exits. What would you say has been the most important part of that entire entrepreneurial journey?
I can't really say there was one part. I mean, it's all, I hopefully have a long time to go, and there's going to be more experiences, more wins, more victories and some losses. Hopefully the more victories than losses, but I can't say that there's one element. It's just, you take it all in. Um, Again, tomorrow's not guaranteed. Be grateful for today, and let all the people in your life know that you appreciate them and recognize that. Um,
Fantastic. Well, if you could have just one superpower, what would it be? But before you answer that, let's take a quick break.
Today's episode is brought to you by Thinkin' Local, a fundraising and giving-based marketing platform whose mission is to connect local Main Street businesses who care about making an impact in the local community with schools and nonprofits who believe in supporting their local businesses. Find out more by visiting local.com. And we're back, digging for gold on the Behind Main Street podcast.
So, Mike, if you could have that one superpower, what would it be?
Time travel.
Why?
I could go back and spend time with people that are no longer with us. Uh, you know, People close to me, maybe, meet somebody I always admired from way back when. Um, Bet on some horses, buy some stocks, you know, that'd be
Remember
pretty
that?
cool.
I think which Back to the Future was that when Biff was able to get that betting magazine? Was that part two or part three? I forgot. When he changed, he definitely changed the future in Back to the Future because of course, he knew what the answers were to the questions.
I only remember the first movie. It was shot at the Pointy Hills Mall.
Yeah.
That anybody that lives around here knows that. Oh my God,
Was
you know
it
where that
Twin Pines?
mall was?
Twin Pines.
Twin Pines, yeah, exactly. Hot Tub Time Machine. That's what I think of. And the guy at the end, I can't think of his name, but he basically went back and started Google. It was
Oh.
called Lugal, I think. Lou, that's it. So yeah, and I think of Lou when I think of time travel.
Gotcha. Well, in your opinion, what has been the most crucial personality trait that an entrepreneur needs to have to succeed?
Grit. It's kind of a cliche word right now. Is there's going to be times when it sucks. In the publishing business, deadlines. There were plenty of times when me and the team would we would stay at the office till 6 in the morning, because there was no negotiation. The magazine had to be at the printer, by sunup the next morning, and it sucks. But you got to suck it up and just get it done. There's nobody else to take care of. You got to do it. There's things you got to do. So, yeah, grit would be it.
Wow, I feel for you. I mean, my last corporate job was head of marketing for a lingerie brand, and always, of course, I'm in charge of approving the ads that go into a magazine, I'll have the publisher of our industry magazine texting me where I'm at a trade show. Hey, I need that ad. I need that ad. I need that ad. Like, hold on. Like, I'm texting my graphic designer. It's like, hey, where's the ad? And you're telling me this, it kind of brings memories back. Like, oh man, he must have hated me. Like he's waiting
He
on my
wasn't
one
kidding.
ad.
He needed that ad. Trust
Yeah.
me.
So sorry. Man, that was my bad.
That's okay. That's okay.
Well, what would you consider up to this point your biggest failure? And what was the lesson that you took out from that?
Biggest failure, I would say, is probably the one that I mentioned about not laying off my employees soon enough. Because in the end, it hurt them. You know, I asked them to kind of everybody, sacrifice together so that, we don't have to lay anybody off. And, so they took cuts in pay. And at the time, they probably would have been better off, you know, setting themselves free to find something else that they might have, moved on to. And I still keep track. I still keep in touch with a lot of them. And, we're all friends, but that was a big mistake. For myself, for my family's sake and for them, it would have been to recognize sooner that that recession was not here to stay, but was going to be a lot longer than I thought it would be initially. And that's kind of where that optimism, really hurt me. So, it's great to be optimistic, but also be realistic. Like step back, detach. I'm a big fan of Jocko Willink and his books. And one of the laws of laws of war in business is to detach. Take a look at things from a separate perspective, not first person where you're living it, and you're more likely to see the holes in your plan when you step back and take a look at things that way.
Wow, fascinating. Would you say that would be your one mistake that if you could do over, you would do things differently? Or was there any other mistake that you could have, if you could go back to, you could redo, and would you do things differently?
Um, yeah, that one I would definitely do differently. It would have saved a lot of headache for a lot of people. So,
Gotcha. Is there someone or something that you sort of turn to those days that you sort of feel stuck?
my family, my wife, my kids, my parents, the people that love me and that I love, and just at the end of the day, nobody died from that mistake. So um, it was just a matter of seeking comfort and managed to get through everything. So grateful for them, grateful for that, and it was an experience that I would have liked to have avoided, but I didn't. I went through it, and try not to make the same mistake twice, and share that experience with others, and hopefully save them some grief if that that should ever happen again.
For sure. Well, today, what drives you to continue going when it gets tough? Because you've had a lot of exits, you have a lot of successes, roller coaster rides and things of that nature. What is it that still keeps you motivated and moving forward?
Um, you know, I I listen to a lot of podcasts and I read a lot of books, and there's always that one that comes up, and I don't know who started originally, but the worst thing in the world would be to, you meet your maker, your time is done, and you see the person that you could have been, and um, that that would be real disappointment. Like when I was a kid growing up, my parents always were like, "Oh, Mike's smart and he's going to be fine. He's going to do this and that." And they always had these expectations. And part of what kept me from getting in trouble as a kid was not wanting to disappoint my parents. And they didn't do it on purpose, I don't think, but that kept me out of trouble. I was a good kid. I never had a run in with the law or anything like that. And I mean, I did a lot of things that they didn't know about that, luckily we don't need to talk about. But for the most part, I was a good kid. And it was the fear of disappointing them. And I think disappointing myself and the people around me, that is a big motivator. I don't want to disappoint them. What I'm doing right now, I have moments when I'm very competitive, And if it's something that I don't really care about, I'm not. Like golf. I used to play a lot of golf and it's fun, but once you stay out of it long enough, I just don't have the time to put back into golf to be good at it. So I'll go play golf and I don't care where my ball goes. I'm out there to have a good time, and that's that. But if it's something I care about, I want to win, and winning to me means growing this business, helping as many people as I can. And in real estate, we have a leaderboard that we can kind of log into and we kind of see where we rank. And, I keep an eye on that because I want to see my company and I want to see my name keep going higher and higher each time. So, and it's, I'm competitive, and in order for me to win that competition, I have to help as many people as I can and make them happy and make sure that they won't blink at a moment of giving me a 5-star review on Zillow or something like that. So, or to tell their friends, when I get a referral from a past client that recommends me to somebody, man, that is the greatest feeling in the world. I mean, it means that I did a good enough job that they were able to lend their credibility in recommending me to somebody else. So that's always a good feeling.
Wow. Thank
So
you so
that's
much
what
for.
drives me right now.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, what would you say has been the biggest aha moment in life for you?
Aha. I think I try to have ahas every day. You know, I can't put again, going back to my niece, that was an aha moment of gratitude, like to be grateful. And I'm not a fan when I hear somebody complaining about something. It's like nails on a chalkboard because I'm like, oh, this is such an insignificant thing, to get heated about. And we all see it, and I catch myself, doing that same thing. Yeah, something happens in the moment, you're upset, and but when you step back and you take a long term perspective, my dad always used to say, there's always somebody that's got it worse, right? And is as bad as somebody messes up on your order at Starbucks, or I'm kind of picky when there's mustard on my burger. I'm like, oh, how could you put mustard on my burger? But it's no big deal. It could have been worse. It could have been worse. And so that was an aha. If there was one moment, that would be it. But I try to find ahas in everything all day long, and they happen. I mean, finding a new way to do something, or when you see something on Instagram of why, what this thing is for that nobody knew, and oh, that's it. Now it makes sense. So, yeah, that's kind of my theory on ahas, I guess.
Gotcha. Well, my next question is, to me, you're I don't know what your answer is going to be. It's going to be interesting because you've been a lifelong entrepreneur. If you could talk to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give him?
Think long term.
Okay.
So don't, you know, stri- I'm so from jujitsu. I've been doing jujitsu for like 12 or 13 years. And one of the things that it's taught me is, think as many steps ahead as you can. So in negotiation, it's helped me tremendously. In just every aspect of life, it's helped me a lot. But it's always to think long term, think strategic. Don't think of just the moment, but have perspective to look further down the road, see where you want to be. I would tell 18-year-old Mike, the things that you think are important right now are really not. Let's think 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead. What's going to be important then. And go from there. So like in real estate, somebody makes a phone call and you think, oh, you want to sell them a house right now, or you want to help them, or what have you, and maybe they're not ready right now, but at some point in time they will be, and you're going to have to eat then. So don't worry about the income. Think long term, and this is I use real estate as an example, but don't if you are a shopkeeper and somebody comes in and they don't buy something right then and there, you know they're going to be back, they're going to have to buy something, or think long term, basically. That would be my advice to 18-year-old Mike.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, as an entrepreneur, What would you say is your favorite productivity hack?
Productivity hack, eat that frog. So Brian Tracy has a book called Eat That Frog, and it's what's the worst thing you got to do each day? Do it first. Get it out of the way, and it's gonna be a victory. And if that is the worst thing that nothing could be as if that's the worst thing you have to do all day, and you get it done early, the rest of the day is going to be smooth sailing. So that's probably the hack that when I do use it is the most beneficial.
Yeah, I remember.
Sometimes I put those frogs off, and
What did he say? If you had to eat a frog or eat two frogs, eat the biggest one first, is what he says, right?
yeah, I it's been a long time, but yeah, eat that frog.
Yeah.
That's the hack.
Well, if you were granted today, right now, three wishes, what would you wish for?
I don't know, happiness. That's such a vague thing. Um, I don't know. Maybe solve some big problem that we all deal with. Build that time machine, like that time machine that I asked for. Um, that 100 million to do all the things that I want to do with it, and just give me the ability to appreciate things more deeply, I guess.
Gotcha. Great wishes. What are you most looking forward to now? Your future as an entrepreneur.
I'm looking forward to the challenges that the next day brings. Like right now, I own my brokerage, and I'm partnering up with a company that is it's a brokerage. It's a $2 billion valuation company, and they are going to handle a lot of the back end work that gets done in running the business. And I'm like really excited about that because it's going to let me to grow out the company, bring on additional agents, um, and it's just lot of opportunity that I feel like it's going to bring. So I'm super excited about that.
Gotcha. Was there a question that you wish I had asked you that I never got the chance to?
No, I like to talk about jujitsu. That's something that I'm really passionate about. Um, it's people don't know it's Brazilian martial art, and some people call it human chess, and you've really got to it's not for everybody, but it's worth a try. I've seen people. I remember this guy Chris that used to smell like an ashtray when he'd come into class. He was overweight, um, and he stuck with it, and he lost a ton of weight, got in shape, decided to go back to school. He became a doctor, moved to Chicago, married the woman of his dreams. He's got a new baby, and like I'm sure jujitsu wasn't the only thing that had that impact, but he came in, overweight and smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, and it had a tremendous effect on him, and it was awesome to see that. And I've seen it multiple times with people that I've come across, over the years. And it could be my jujitsu, could be somebody else's tennis, or who knows. Do something that you enjoy, um, that you find rewarding, that will bring out the best in you, and have that in your life. I'm very thankful for that, and the people I've met from it. It's helped me in my personal relationships. It's helped me in business. It's helped me in issues of health, and coping with different things that I've had to deal with in life. So, uh, yeah, that's it. Why didn't you ask me about that?
I know.
That was
Sorry.
good.
Well, fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that. You mean you said that you started 12 years ago, right?
So yeah, I want to say 2007.
Okay.
2007.
So it's
No,
not too
2000,
late to
actually,
start like at a
informally 2008. So yeah, I don't know. However long that's not
Gotcha,
2008.
gotcha.
It's been a long time.
All right. Well, I mean,
I can't remember.
I guess you don't have to, because I
Gracie.
always thought you had to like be a kid to start it and then kind of go
Oh
through.
no, it's so when I had the magazine, our demographic, our average reader was like 29 or 32 years old. That he predominantly male, but there's a lot of women that do it, and It was about the readership was about 90% male. Average age was 31 or 32 years old. Um, Average was slightly overweight. It's great exercise. Anybody can do it. If you can get into the gym, you can do jujitsu. Um, and there's two really good schools here in Chino Hills. There's Gracie Baja, which is on Roswell over behind Target. This is very local. And then there's Sector Jiu Jitsu on Central. And I actually leased them that 10,000 square foot building that they're in. So, and they love it. They're super happy. People drive up and down that street every day and come on in because of that location. So that's an ad for if you need a lease a building, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for letting us know about that. I'm sure a lot of the entrepreneurs that do listen to this episode and listen to this podcast will get a lot of value from that.
I hope so. And if anybody's got any questions, I'm sure there'll be a link or something if they want to reach out to me
Yeah,
about
well,
anything.
yeah.
Detergent.
So where can listeners learn more about you and your business?
So Bldg Realty, and it's an abbreviation for BLDG, or it's building, pronounced building, but it's bldgrealty.com. And on Instagram, I am Bold Agent, BOLD Agent. Um, I get political every now and then, so either we agree. If we agree or disagree, I could care less. It's all good. That it's a shame that things, people have gotten so political. It's really sad. And I don't take if you didn't get this impression, I don't take anything personal. So like we could argue about something at the end of the day, it's all good. We're still friends. Um, but I can detach. So that's what I'm saying. So yeah, follow me on Instagram. Go to the website, or actually, here, my number is 909-247-0374. Send me a text, give me a call. If you have any questions, I'd love to help you. Whether it's real estate or you're starting a business, and in fact, you interviewed Denise at Viking Spawn. Um, they took over my old office, and I found them on Facebook, or she found me, or they found up, or I found them, or I don't know how it was, but we ended up becoming friends, and they leased space from me, and then the roles reversed before I moved out here to the shops where I'm at now. I was leasing from them, and we're friends. We had lunch the other day, and any questions I can answer, just shoot me a text, and I'd love to help you out.
Fascinating. Well, in closing, what is one piece of practical advice that you can share with our listeners in their entrepreneurial journey?
I mentioned Jocko earlier, and he has a saying that discipline equals freedom. And when you think about it, it's so true in everything in life. If it's exercise financial discipline, and one day you'll be able to afford the things that you dream of if you're not, spending frivolously. Uh, I love ice cream, and if I could have a big bowl of ice cream every day, I would. But health wise, I probably wouldn't be that here for as long as I'd like to be. So exercising that discipline to not have that bowl of ice cream tonight is going to give me the freedom to enjoy my life for a longer time. So just it applies to everything. You know, Put in the work now, and you'll have the freedom that you want. So there's another plug for Jocko. Discipline equals freedom.
Absolutely. He's a great author, great Navy SEAL, and great speaker. Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, so he's into jujitsu, and he had the company that he bought into. They have a camp in Maine every year. And this last year, I took my son. I had gone before, but I took my son, a friend, actually a client, a past client, and now friend, and another friend, and the four of us, road trek. No, we didn't road trek. We flew, but we had a great trip. We were out in the woods of Maine for a week, rolling and doing jiu-jitsu with Jocko and a bunch of other like-minded people. So it was great.
Wow. Fascinating. I hope I get the chance to do that with my son soon.
Yeah, do it. Go to class. Sign up.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for being such a great guest on the show and for giving me and our listeners actionable nuggets that we can apply not only to our lives, but also our business. I invite our listeners to please connect with Mike from Bldg Realty Inc. I will have his information on the description of this episode and also his Instagram and his phone number there as well. I also urge you to connect with me if you want to be a guest on this show, and if you want to suggest a guest, please also do connect with me. Also, please share, subscribe, leave a rating, review. I would very much appreciate your honest feedback, which helps me continually provide impactful content that I hope you will find valuable. And always remember that every day that you face adversity, think of it as an opportunity to find the gold inside you. Until next time, have a success-filled day.
Thanks for listening to the Behind Main Street podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. Remember to visit www.behindmainstreet.com.